In the modern Western academy, these things, yoga, for example, tantra, came around 1970s. There was a court case, and secular universities were not allowing, teaching religions in a confessional way. And predominantly churches were fighting against it. They wanted to teach like a Bible classes within university system. And so there was this debate between secular religious institutions, and they developed, I think it was in Chicago first time, they allowed a scientific, secular, objective reading of religious texts around 70s. And one of the first professors was Mircea Eliade. There's a little funny story. Mircea Eliade went to India, spent a good chunk of his life, and he studied under S.N. Dasgupta. And S.N. Dasgupta was the teacher of my teacher in India. So that is a funny connection. And Mircea Eliade would not have come to the West if not for some life events. I'm sure you guys also have some life events. In his case, what happened? He fell for my grand teacher's daughter. And then he didn't like it, and then it was not allowed. And then he was so frustrated, he went to the Himalayas and he found some yogis, and he learned yoga. And then he found actually the practical dimension of yoga, and he had already studied with some good scholar. And then he also met some actual yoga practitioners, and then realized in his own personal life that it was very good. And then that's like basically Mircea Eliade came to America, and the debate was going on. It was settled, and then they started the program, and somewhat yoga practices became a talk on yoga. What I'm telling you is, when you are allowing to teach these things in secular university, you cannot teach practices. So when you cannot teach these practices, because that would be equivalent to, let us say, teaching people the Bible to, the way the Christian confessional model works, like in teaching in a church, for example. So they wanted to separate it. In some cases, historical teachings became good because there is so much to learn from history. But in other cases, for example, if you are a medical student, for example, and everything you learn, you are not ever supposed to practice it, then it just becomes like a meaningless type of thing. And yoga does have medical applications, and there's not one or 100 or 1,000 researches now. There are like tens of thousands of scientific researches, not from one institute, whether you name it, Harvard or MOE or European institutions. So it's overwhelming support in medical application of yoga practices, of meditation, and so many different forms of yoga, of different visualization. I teach a lot of visualization practices. I'll tell you down the line what I mean by it. So why modern confinement of academic department does not work is what's the point of learning these things if you don't ever want to bring it to your life? Because there are so many things that you can actually go and just study for the sake of study, like history, just you learn Second World War and then you don't reorchestrate the World War, hopefully. But these are the things. Contemplative practices are not just descriptions of the facts. There is tremendous amount of implication and transformation of our life. And I get through my own different phases of realization. First, you come to teaching, like coming from my cultural background, it took me time even to understand the Western models of academic institution. And I opened my own department for tantric studies in Nepal, like in 1991. That's still running. I was just 25 then. And my students are still teaching the program there, where we do not have these levels of confinement. And I moved out, I had so many different reasons, and then for a few years you get a job that's a tenure track job, and you just become a horse, like you follow the track or you lose the job. And following track is very easy because you have these textbooks and then make a PowerPoint, go and read out. Students are happy. These days they will take just photos, if they don't even waste time listening to your lectures. So yeah, my life is easy, their life is easy, and why bother? But then around the 9, after I was tenured, I started rethinking this whole education model that we have designed university education as an information model. You come to campus to be an informed citizen, and in my generation, being an informed citizen used to be a matter of honor, like we are informed citizens.
Yeah.
But then the point of disillusionment starts coming. Number one, as a teacher who has taught for so long, I start questioning, am I actually informing? Because most of the textbooks are written with agenda, colonial agenda, imperial agenda, all types of vicious agenda, and then I cannot be the single scholar to throw all of them out and then say, hey, I know the best. I have to, do the topsy-turvy head position on every issue, and then it's impossible to do that in a classroom or any practical environment, number one. Number two, are you getting informed? And am I informing from my part? Number two, are you getting informed? And number three, do you need me to get that information? Because like in the old churches, you cannot read your own book, the Bible, and then you go every Sunday to the church and there is the priest. Educated means he has literacy, he can read the book, and everybody gets the message of God. Everybody feels good because there is one guy who can read the book. I can relate to that from my childhood because I'm from remote Nepal. And my father, being a Pandit, scholar, had that almost like a part-time job to read the villagers' letters, because many of the villagers could not read the letters that their children are sending from remote places, and then they would need someone to read it for them. But today, information is not under anybody's control. If you want to get any information, you will get that information. In spite of the control of the institution, in spite of how teachers want you to think, This is a Gen Z revolution, you guys call. This is like you have an overload of information. You are not informed, you are information overloaded. So what is needed then is transformation. Because one of the things I cannot do as a teacher is try to relate to your personality or cultivate personality or see what type of personality I would like to see in you, because that is very unprofessional. You would immediately rate my professor and then it's very personal, and that takes a lot of energy from my part. It is my job. Why should I worry? I am just working for the institution. And so we are given a wall between you and me.
Yeah.
And what is happening is these informations mean nothing.
Yeah.
Because we need a selected volume of information to allow the subjects to cultivate higher states of consciousness through which they can relate to their world, their everyday life in a different gaze, different perspective, and they can not just be productive in their life, they can also be happy, not just successful, but also satisfied. Because the amount of focus we have given on success, we have not thought about satisfaction. I have met many successful people, but I wish I could say they are also satisfied where they are right now. And another very interesting factor I'm seeing is I have taught many talented people, and they have achieved a lot more than I have, and that's just every teacher feels proud of that moment when your students are in better positions than yourselves or publish more or achieve more. That's just like our proud moment. But when I connect to some of these students who actually have not really achieved objectively as much as they believe they have, there is not just a tiny gap between what they think they are and what really is the fact that they have achieved in their life. Is a gap unbridgeable. And so I believe myself to be superior to some billionaires, and in my fantasy land, and then I'm destined to crash somewhere. And what I notice is these students, now teachers, now in businesses, now having jobs, if you are earning this and then you take an example, or that guy is getting more successful. And then these people are not just unsatisfied. That is normal in human life. This life we live in this physical world doesn't make us fully satisfied. That's the nature of the world. Buddha taught us that. But they are having mental breakdowns. They are having psychological disorders because they believe themselves to be very different from what the reality is. The fact is, there's such a gap. And if I start telling you at least have a job, look at the other people like yourself who don't have a job, then they will stop talking with me too. It doesn't go anywhere, right? So we are coming back to the point that we are not able to cultivate the citizen. We are taking it for granted that our personality is our personal job. Nobody is there to cultivate our personality. There is no engineering of our personality. There is no building of personality. There is no school for personality. As parents, we want to see our kids do well, and we want to control their behavior, and that's what we call good. And then as long as they are behaving in a proper way, code of conduct. And in college, we just check for their grades scores. You guys are getting good scores. You graduate on time. That's done. But that is not your life. That's not you. And if I tell people that there is a completely separate education about the self, the cultivation of the self, the cultivation of the ego that relates to the world, then people just cannot relate to what I'm talking about. It seems too esoteric or too philosophical an issue, and maybe you guys can help me find language, because this needs to be primary. I'm not talking about 5-6 of us sitting in a comfortable room and talking about cultivating our subjectivity. I'm talking about designing the entire education system where we are consciously giving freedom, not designing him. Designing is what is already happening. We are being designed to fit in the need of the nation, of the corporations, So of parents design children to fit within their mold, like religion or culture or language. So we are designed. We are not given the freedom and the key to cultivate ourselves that we need to, so that we have that freedom to redesign ourselves as time unfolds, as place demands, as situations call for. Yoga is that. Yoga is not how you sit in a lotus position. Yoga is not what you bring to your mind. Yoga is not how you control your breath. Because these things are just different games we play to learn the functioning of the mind, of the ego, to directly access our own mind, to encounter face to face our own mind. And then we call hasta malaka, meaning like if you have a tiny berry on your palm and you can see from all around, so you can see with total transparency your own mind, your own ego, and then where you are hurt, if you see the fruit from all around, and if part is rotten, you can see that, if it is right, you can see that. So the same way, if some cure is needed, if there are some hurts, some dents because of time, because of memory, if you have some dreams, how to see that, how to engineer that, what is your programming in your society, what is your relationship with your family. Your family is a circle of your family, your colleagues are your family too. Your co-workers are also your family too. How do you relate to that? We have taken for granted that it is just that is there given. And then for the government institutions, it does matter. Because they only want to enforce the law. As long as you do not break the law, it's not their business. In educational institutions, subsume under that governmental parameters. So what we teach in university is also to make you act within the legal system, within the constitution, what you can do and not do, and explore whatever capacities you have. We are not teaching anything about your self-discovery. Self-discovery has become so esoteric that it's everybody has a personality issue, personality disorder, not like a neurotic psychosis level, but every social interaction is twofold. There are other people and there is the ego, the subject, and how I relate to you. There's always this gap between what you expect from me and what I think I am. And then in businesses, you can clearly see there is a quick problem immediately, but in corporations, in how the policy makers, the leaders, what they believe they are. We got, like I'm from Nepal, we just had a Genji revolution, and that kind of burned down maybe 200 houses of different political leaders, and then some of them were dragged into streets and even beaten up. Not praising or not discrediting either, but what I mean is all these people who became leader also were very poor at one time and were from the public. They became royalties as soon as they got power. They became multi-millionaires as soon as they got power, and the people were left behind. Why? I do not say I do not say this is what happens. I say that is the problem of our education. We have not cultivated the subject, the personality. We have not built people's interiority. We have given them weapons. We have not told them why not to use or in which situations they can use these weapons. We have made brilliant people and we have created monsters. So I do not want to get carried away in all these things. Now let's just, I said only Q&A, but then it's already like half an hour. I was just giving you the background, but I hope I was able to convey the matter, the point. So then, how does yoga help in that? Because I made a big claim, yoga works for it. It doesn't matter which yoga. I'm more used to Buddhist and Hindu yoga, in particular Hindu yoga, but I'm used to and practiced both Buddhist forms and Hindu forms of yogas and tantras. So I will give you a very nutshell intro to the types. So from the Buddhist vocabulary, there is one term we call samatha and another is vipassana. Samatha, you can say pacification, and vipassana is literally observation, the different methods of observation. To make it simple, we have two methods of meditation. One is to teach you how to calm yourself down, and then two, how to program your mind. So the first part is how can we calm ourselves down.
Can I quickly interrupt you? This is how you're trying to serenity.
Yeah, serenity and insight. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So how can you calm yourself down? Tremendous focus these days have been in the calming part. this pacification, I'm just saying it's calming. How does this pacification work? We are calling this school of that issue, that is God knows 1,000 different schools of yoga, and we are giving you different breathing techniques, physical exercises, different mudra gestures, or all the different forms of practices for tranquility. As long as you are agitated, Khaptaḍ, there is no beginning of yoga. When the mind is moving very fast, is restless, you cannot stay focused on anything. The example would be like a fountain of water. In clean water, you can see the reflection of your face. But if it is a fountain, you cannot see your face reflected on the fountain. It's running fast, and there is no reflection happening. So first of all, we like to calm down so for that, like a breathing exercises we are teaching, our ultimate goal is to take you to that tranquility. But what is the degree of tranquility needed? In yoga, our external physical agitation is one scale, and then there is a verbal chatter, meaning language. This is not external language like I'm talking right now, but there is an internal language that you are thinking right now. You are just not listening to me. You are also internally thinking about what I'm saying. There is a constant chatter. That verbal chatter also needs to be pacified. And then there is this third degree. You have sensations, you have feelings, you have emotions, and then that's another level of chatter in a sense, but not in language. It's just a feel. And then you also learn to calm all those, let's say, tides. When you have calmed all these different tides, what comes next? The yogic understanding is that we do not need to tell you who you are, what you are. You start a direct encounter of your deeper ego, and you see the truth on your own. Rather than telling you this is the truth, if you were to analytically go in the deepest state of the mind and learn how to completely pacify your mind, then whatever is there is your true nature. But then you will find different models now, different yogic models. Some people discover a transcendent ego, the Atman. Some say it is all emptiness. And these are all the debates I keep telling all the people, doesn't matter to you, because these are the experiences of the people who have been there. It's like we are discussing about the height of the Mount Everest, and we have no intention even to climb a small hill. So what does it matter which one is taller, So therefore, the basic thing is to go there, bring your own experience, not with your ego, but it's like more like a deconstructive method, I call that, because constantly what are we given to? We are, the first subject that we are is relational, meaning even before I had a faint idea about myself, I recognized my mom, my dad, because, constantly say mom, say dad. I could see them, I couldn't see myself, my person is not even as important as the relational world. And then the I is constructed in that relational way. Who am I? I'm always in relation to somebody. My parents and my siblings and my colleagues, my family, my students, and so on. So we have not really thought about this non-relational basis, whether that is the self, you want to use the word, or you want to call that ego, or you want to say there is nothing there, I don't care. But there should be a possibility, pure possibility, which identify itself as a relational ego. As a son or a daughter, as a student or a teacher, whatever the way, there is something within me that I identify myself as. And what does it feel like to touch base of that foundation in non-relational way, as it is, without being somebody's child, without being somebody's husband or wife, without being anybody's student or teacher? That is meditation. Because the goal of meditation is not just let's calm down a little bit, because you need to go back to the history of yoga. These people who were doing yoga practice for all their life didn't have a stock market to worry about, didn't even have money or gold invented. So they were not trying to calm themselves from day-to-day stress. We are simply applying it in our modern life. But the actual goal of yoga is still relevant or more relevant today, because they were interested to go to this base of the me. And that base of the me that we all should know at one point before we decide big things in our life. You graduate, you become a major, you take one job, you find one woman, you relate, you have children, you have every single relational self tied to so many different things. The only thing you have not been able to focus is your own being, core essence. And does it stop you from being successful in your field, to become a doctor or become a pilot or become whatever you want? I believe that only the people who fail in their life are the confused people. If I deploy the army in war zone, who are so confused why they are deployed there, whether they should even fight or not, the war is lost. If you become a doctor and you are very confused why you even wanted to be a doctor, your dad wanted you to be a doctor, but you never wanted to be a doctor, then we are creating a confused subject. This does not, your self-discovery does not stop you from engineering yourself. Okay, this is me in a pure non-relational way, full of potentials, and I am going to cultivate this person for this phenomenal world, relational world, for this particular purpose. I will become a philosopher, I'll become a doctor. Then you are not programmed by these corporations, you are self-programmed. People say, I'm self-made. You may have heard that. They're not self-made. They're not self-made. To be self-made, you have to find the self, and then you program yourself accordingly. So that is why you remove all the impositions, go to that full reservoir power. You are the reservoir of power. Find that. And then in the Vipassana type, or basically broadly visualizations, I would say, where you have more observations in your thoughts, in your memory, in your fantasy. So that is where we will teach you how to meditate on mandala. My friends here wanted I just come and talk on mandala. I thought I can come and talk on mandala any day you guys want to, but I wanted to first of all get to know you, because without you knowing why we are teaching, okay, now think of a triangle, you will think of a triangle, feels funny, it's upside down, make it, flip it up, rotate the triangle, turn it into a pyramid, and then look from above. It's like a little bit of a cognitive exercise, right? And you will participate if you like, and then you will evaluate at the end. I loved his, exercises. It's a gimmick. It's like a workshop culture, one workshop to the next. So that's why I wanted to first, share with you how yoga has to teach you to calm yourself all the way to the level that all the programming and agitations are suspended. And at that foundation, there is something there within you. You don't need to name it. This possibility that we cultivate by programming, like you meditate on it. I don't believe in mantra. I don't care what you believe, not believe. It's not about ghost or supernatural thing. It's about giving you the capacity to consolidate imagination and give you the power to make that imagination your reality. So this is the training we do mostly in Tantra. But Patanjali's yoga, that is the next course I'm teaching, is a complete course in itself of the journey of self-discovery, but also of self-programming. But it's a long journey, but I have to stop at that so that I can, as I promised, I'll rather have a conversation, and I don't want to just walk out without even taking a single question. So thank you so much. So now you guys ask me whatever you like.
Yes. Floor is open for any questions. Yeah.
So let's say you can go to the gym, for example, then you'll work out and your muscles will get stronger. So what's the difference between a sort of personal development of going to the gym or running or some sort of physical training or this type of mental development you're talking about? Because when you go to the gym and you exercise, if you go and you do the exercises, you'll get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel in my experience of meditation, I meditate 2 hours a day. And I could go and do that sit 2 hours a day, every day, and perhaps make no progress if I'm not doing it with the right intentions or with the right mindset or understanding.
That's a very good question, and actually that's very relevant also, how to objectively evaluate the goal, the transformation. I cannot say don't focus on goal. This whole modern world, always goal-oriented. In my personal life, I have found so much satisfaction from it that without these practices, I would be nowhere. But that doesn't mean that I can prove based on my personal experience that this is fact enough, because you would need to see some objective results. So, first of all, these meditation practices themselves are intention guided. What is the intention of even going to do that? So I'm just going to sit there and calm myself. You got calmed down. And then as soon as you wake up, you are agitated, right? Nothing more is achieved. But when you learn to watch over the flow of your mind. That's basically the kind of yoga I teach. To watch over your own thoughts, to hijack or take over your thinking and then program particular thoughts and see how long you can run your own programming versus then the natural force takes over and then you are like tussled down basically. Now you fall and then you have to again pick it up. So how you can watch whether it is giving you anything or not is not just about whether you are calm or not. You may be naturally calm.
Well, I don't think I got my point across. I'm not like saying like it's not working for me. What I'm asking is it similar? Is yoga
No.
similar
Yeah,
to work?
I'm
you
coming.
do the exercise.
I'm-
You say the mantra and
Yeah,
you get.
I'm coming
change
there.
your mind.
Maybe I'm taking little extra time, but I'm coming there. What I mean is, what are observable? Because number one, the body is an objective phenomena. If you are getting slimmer or if your cardiovascular health is better, these are all the things that can be observed. Mental traits are not as clearly observable. You have to apply a sort of phenomenological method, meaning watching your own subjective states. You will start, not you as a person, someone doing yoga, meditation, can start seeing the tendencies, particularly on passion, aversion dynamics, delusion dynamics, meaning how strongly he or she is attached to something, or hatred that causes further reaction, social reaction, going into anger or disgust, meaning our emotional health. Is there noticeable shift in our emotional life, in the way we feel about our presence in the world or whatever we are doing? And overall, is it giving what we call happiness or satisfaction more? So those are, even these are almost like a subjective criteria rather than being fully objective criteria, but the happiness does exist. Even if we cannot quantify happiness, we cannot say, oh, it's just mumbo jumbo. Our emotional health does exist. People have a relationship with relationships. Like people have issues, problems with relationship, meaning they cannot relate to another person. They are so difficult to talk with, and then so they become easy to relate to. Or we ourselves should be able to observe if it has brought some change in personality traits, including our emotional response to the stimuli, including our feeling about ourselves, our self-evaluation, self-esteem. And if nothing is observable, then either that the practice is not going well, like it's not a proper practice, because there are different types of practices, and therefore people have to be open-minded to just maybe look for another type of practice. Because in particularly like in the case of anger, a lot of people with anger management issues, they will immediately start noticing with meditation that they are able to calm themselves more easily, more. And then if nothing is working, actually they are just as angry every day, it means that their meditation is not working. So then we cannot evaluate based on what degree of Buddhahood I have reached by meditating 3 hours a week. I don't think that there is ever going to be that type of scale. But we can definitely watch our own personality traits. But there is also still a catch. some students say, I'm learning this from you, I have done these practices, but then I do not find myself calm. It is not helping. And I'm not saying my practice is insulated and it should always work. I'm like, what is happening with you? And then I lost a job, or I broke up. And you cannot really expect that because you are giving 1 hour a day on yoga and then you lost your job and then you should just be indifferent, So what other things, other factors? Because life is such that every day some kind of crisis arises, and then I cannot say because you have done this much of meditation, everything is going to be good for you. But overall, people, like I have talked with so many, like I've cultivated by now about 1,000 student practitioners that I have trained. Everybody who is sticking with me is sticking because they got something out of it. Not because they personally like, I don't charge even, not like there is some kind of personal connection, because this is an international body. Most of the students I've never met in my life because this is online teaching. So I just feel like there is an actual transformation happening in their life, but there are so many other factors like your own health, what is happening, and emotional life, like relational breakups. So then, even in those situations, your meditation should be helping, but I cannot say it always works in those changing. Like I would say, other things remaining the same. If other factors are not drastically changing, if life is in the same situation, then you should be able to cultivate your own personality and have a better emotional health if the meditation is working. Otherwise, we need to change something.
Well, so is practice akin to doing any other exercise, or is it fundamentally different? Is my question.
Because it's a mental exercise, but in one case it is, in another case it is not. Like in exercise, you are actually doing. In samatha, in tranquility, you are constantly not doing. Meditation, we say, let us meditate, we use as a verb. Meditation, we take like, let's eat, let's dance, let's go to gym, and let's meditate. We use the word to meditate as a verb, and something we think we are doing. The meditation is not doing. What do I mean by not doing? When your mind is doing things and you just don't do, then that becomes meditation. So that not doing part is different from other exercises, because in physical you are doing something, in mental too you are doing something, but the first thing of samatha, you are constantly returning from doing, like pratyahara, to withdraw your sensory faculties. You are training your mind to not do, not engage, not involve. But then there is also another type of meditation, as I said, programming. And in there, it is like exercise. It's like a physical exercise. What I mean by that is, let's say I tell you to close your eyes and then imagine a lotus. Let's say this is a red lotus. Let us say this is a red lotus with 8 petals around in front of you, right in front of you, around the height of your heart. This is an 8-petal lotus. Now imagine at the center of this lotus a hexagon, 2 intersecting triangles constituting a hexagon. Let's draw that hexagon with the white shiny lines, and then the lotus is totally red, and the sphere in between is transparent, just the sky, the blue sky is appearing, like you can transparently see the blue sky that is not covered by the lotus or the hexagon. And then like you are constantly creating the image that as I am programming you, and then let us say I say, and now I would like you to insert separate phonemes in the triangles. And now you have to, I will keep giving you more and more and more complexity to the level that I would say, see these 108 different deities with their particular hands and gestures and weapons in all these different positions of this complex mandala. Okay, so then we start from the most basic form like a triangle and then maybe color, but then you are not simply like doing this kindergarten like a coloring book. We are now animating complex imagery, and we are intersecting with other imagery, and we are processing like layers and layers of different imagery. And then in that case, I'm just giving you as an example, yes, in that case we are actually doing some type of mental exercise. Like I teach primarily mantras, and what does that mantra even mean? It's just some phoneme. Don't worry about meaning. And then most intellectual type get lost because we are not even thinking about meaning. But then you are repeating particular phonemes like supercalifragilistic, and then you are repeating that, and at the same time you are thinking of a pyramid, a red pyramid, and then you are thinking of some deity image. And then I say, oh, that deity image has 18 arms, by the way. In the 9 arms, you have these and these gestures and weapons. In another 9 arms, these and these gestures and weapons. And then, but you have to continue to repeat the same phonemes. And then now you then realize that mind can be split into multiple parts, playing multiple roles simultaneously. And then there is something within you that can watch over these different roles being carried out by your mind simultaneously. And then that's where you can see some type of exercise happening. What is the result of it? It's like when somebody loves to go to gym, they're like not even worry like checking calories or whatever every day. They just love to go there. It becomes a habit. Then you like to do it because you can see beauty in it, and it demands its own discipline. Like I was talking to Bilal before you guys came, that for 9 days I will not eat any grains, and I'm just only spending most of these 9 days Navaratra for my meditation practices. This is like the 4th day we have completed today. So is why? This is like because what I have done gives me so much access to what I could not access in the mind before, and that just makes me more interested to see what more I can do.
So did the two types of practice accomplish the same goal or different goals, or are they both necessary to accomplish some goal? Why do you do one and the other, or can somebody only practice serenity, or some person only do these exercises?
Most practices are one-sided because they either focus on one. That's why like get-go, why Aditi came and maybe we do mandala, and then I'm like, let's not go from there. And I wanted to give you the background of these different types and the objectives of these different types. But these schools are made and customized to do limited things, but some of the schools have a very comprehensive model, some do not. And I cannot say that every practice takes us to the same goal. Most of them don't actually. They're different types of what we have done is a sort of perennialism that it doesn't matter, like I call that new age, like all the spiritual forms are the same and every practice of yoga is the same, and it doesn't matter whether we are mixing some a new age type of meditation into Patanjali and do some Tantra here and Sufi practice there, Kabbalah next day, so I have some students who kind of sort of like to do that, I can't tell them to not do, we live in free society, but I don't think that helps us cultivate anything at the end. Not that one of the forms is right, others are wrong, but it is just like we are not doing anything right.
But is it rather spiritual practice like a pyramid where there's lots of different ways to start in different paths?
Yeah, I would say that in a real beginning, I don't even think, just like I said, what does it matter whether Everest is 19,000 or 29,000 or whatever. It's just in the beginning, all these courses are the same. They are taking us to similar goals. But then when we get into subtleties, not that one path is wrong or another is right, but that when we get into subtleties, then everybody has to decide which particular type of experience they sincerely want to cultivate in their life. And it is not to say others are wrong, therefore. It is only that we cannot afford every single type of heightened level of ultimate yogic experiences. Some people have claimed, mostly for political reasons, meaning, oh look, I do all the four practices. It's like more, like being a accepted guy in all different clubs.
So you're saying that it's in one go, like even when you get to a very high level, like still branches out and converge to a fight?
You dedicate to one particular course of practice does not make you a small person when it comes to other practices. You can, if you climb one mountain really tall and then you see there is a parallel mountain and your friend is climbing that parallel mountain, you do not see him at the bottom of the hill. You still see him in wherever the height he is. It's just a different mountain. Or you do not see anybody who climbs that mountain is necessarily going to go to hell, You just you climbed one mountain, you climbed another mountain. What's the big deal about it? But it is just simply impossible to afford time to cultivate every single form of these absolute states of meditation, because training one course is not even enough, one lifetime is not even enough to complete one course, because if you are exposed to these manuals, then you will see these are actually real manuals that people actually practiced in their life, and it demands so much time. Like in the kind of life I'm living, if I offer 2 hours a day, then I'm like, wow. When I was grad, I used to offer 8 hours a day. And then that just was not enough. If I wanted to be a full-time yogi, I needed to have something like 14 hours a day of, it's not just closing and thinking the same thing, I'm breathing in, it's not. It's every step has something else to do, and these demand time.
So you're saying these different paths lead to different destinations, like the different...
I myself don't even know where different paths lead to, because what I'm like, who am I to judge where they lead to? I only know my path, because for me to evaluate, these guys are not going anywhere, or to say my path is taking higher, or to say they all are taking us to the same goal. We are making statements about things we don't know. Our goal is to actually do and cultivate our own inner self, and then every path that we are given to from every culture does their job good enough for that much, all the meditative practices have that potential. I may teach one thing, Dalai Lama teaches something else, or another Sufi master will teach something else. Is it like theirs is better or theirs is wrong? I don't see that way. But I do not want to say that my path is superior, or I am not going to say they all go to the same place. I don't know. I don't need to know where they go.
Well, it's like if all people who haven't practiced have a problem, let's say, and practices, the goal of practice is to overcome this problem, then when you say anybody who overcomes the problem has ended up at the same point.
Not the overcoming problem part, I don't see anything there. Meaning the kind of thing we are dealing with, like let's say we have anger issues. I do not think that this particular yoga is going to help you, this one is not. I think that almost all the meditative practices will help us deal with and transcend our these reaction-based life cycle. I'm talking about something beyond. It's like when we have crossed over these limited conditioned life, conditioned by culture, conditioned by God knows what, food, habits, whatever, and then when we are free from that conditions, we are starting to condition ourselves. We are programming by means of complex visualizations. It's a reprogramming of the self to discover what is the fullest potential that you have. And that, I am not saying every path takes you to the same. What I'm saying is deconstruction part is the same. To liberate you from your conditioning by the ego, by emotions, I think they all can help as far as that is concerned, if those are actual proper paths. Some of them, like you go to beer yoga, you drink, and I'm not saying they also help you to the same thing, So as long as they are actual paths, they will help you to that. But after that, I'm talking about higher orders of consciousness, higher awakening, higher modes of awakening. Those higher modes of awakening, we are not talking about. If you are simply talking about how to get rid of my particular problem, that is not a problem. For your higher consciousness to cultivate certain mystical states, if you may, or liberated modes of consciousness, those liberated modes of consciousness are not going to be identical in different practices.
Well, I'm talking about problem with a capital P, not like individual problem.
So the capital P is not, let's not call that a problem then. Because most of the yoga masters, starting the Buddha or everybody, they have used this a capital P. I would rather maybe one of the days you guys can play. There is one guy, there is a J. Krishnamurti and there is another guy, J. Krishnamurti. Okay. Not the Jiddu Krishnamurti, but the another J. Krishnamurti. And then he will, if you listen to him 15 minutes, that will help. Like the life is not a problem, or all these liberation and all these not necessary. Because we have created the world and the liberation in the same problem-solving model. Like religion is also problem-solving. You are trapped, you worship, you liberate. And then Buddha, you are suffering, you do this, you liberate. So this is fundamentally, they have made this ultimately like a capital P. Why am I thinking this way? You might be like, why am I not thinking like good yoga teachers, like Buddha, for example? It's because I come from the school of Tantra. I don't see the world as a problem. The world is an opportunity. For you to, if you are a miserable guy, you will find this a very big problem. If you are a right type of guy, you will find some time to enjoy your life. So it's like life is, I am not going to say that life is suffering. Life is not suffering. If you want to suffer and you leave home, go to forest, and then you suffer. Okay? So, and then don't tell that life is suffering. It's you, you want to suffer, and then it's just like you just go, do some kind of weird activity, like start, climbing a mountain with a single foot, and then you can't complain the life, because it's like you are doing weird, man. It's just like, so I have a very different philosophy for that. The school I come from is called Trikashaiva philosophy, and I'm not making this up. This is like the how to cultivate life experiences in more profound and beautiful ways.
Well, it is no problem when you practice.
Why do you practice?
Yeah.
It's not to solve problem. It is to, like for example, I cook meal, and how do we understand? I have a problem. I'm feeling hungry. Is that a problem?
Does it have to?
It's. I don't see hunger as a problem. I see just a natural course. I feel hungry, I eat something, I enjoy food. So being hungry is a natural process for me, not a problem. And my body responds if I'm thirsty. I don't see that as a problem. I get aroused. I don't see that as a problem. So what we are calling problems may not actually be problems. They're just situations in life.
What separates meditation practice from any other hobby or pursuit then if there's no problem?
I don't think I follow this one. Can you repeat, please?
Like, so if there's no problem in life as it is, just living, then what makes meditation practice or a spiritual development any different from any other type of development that you do because it's interesting?
Yeah, okay. So, I think I got it. So this is like when I said, don't treat it as a problem solving system, that I meant in a certain higher level of realization, understanding. In the very basic level, when you educate children, let's say, we tell them the stories of the boogeyman, we tell them the stories of, all kinds of, if you do this thing will happen. At the end, like, you do good thing and Santa Claus will come and, give you this reward. And then one day the kids grow up and they do not need Santa Claus or a boogeyman to do something good or to refrain from doing bad. All these problems and rewards are for Pavlov level people. Pavlov's dog, not Pavlov, I mean. We are first trained for reward and punishment. Our mind, in its most basic level, is trained like Pavlov's dog. We get treated, we do things. Or if we are punished, we do not do that thing. But this reward and punishment system, when you realize it doesn't matter, then you realize that, reward punishment is not actually real. It's a reward. We are seeing the world as a reward punishment. All the religions have used the world as a reward punishment. You do this, you get this reward. You go to heaven or whatever. We haven't seen it. But becoming good is in itself pursuable. When you become a good person, I don't think you need to be told that if you don't steal, you will go to heaven. I don't think you are not murdering your neighbor because you want to go to heaven. You just know that's not something you want to do, right? Doing bad is doing bad. You don't want to do it. So it's not because if you do this, then you will go to hell, or if you do this, then you will go to heaven. So You just know good thing is good. That's how you do. But in the first level training, like children, we have these like the Pavlov's dog level reward and punishment system, and we have created all religions for that level of training to people to based on reward and punishment system.
So you're saying it's kind of like a journey you're taking. You're making like as you progress, the scenery changes and the sort of problems that there are change. But there's like if there's different levels. Like okay, you're in this place where you're really motivated by like you have all these regular problems. Like you climb out of that realm into like a different scenery, but then like you're still just you're climbing just wherever, like climbing out of the forest into like the rocky place on the mountain.
Yeah. So what happens is like when we are doing yoga, and then it is completely rational for us to see these stations. Like in the Buddhist meditation practice, there is a book called Dasa Bhumika Sutra, the sutra meaning the stanzas, aphorisms on 10 grounds of meditation. And they even made these chaitya, stupa, demonstrating 13 different stages of meditation. And so when we tell students, this is where the Buddha is, and that is the 14th, and this is where you are, the first level, and each stage, these are the experiences that happen. You got a manual. I have those manuals, by the way. So you get the manual, and then now you start practicing. And then it may take some time for you to realize that yes, roughly you can see the glimpses or be in those states, but then you come back to your normal everyday life also. I'm not saying nothing changes, but I'm saying that everything just doesn't change in your rest of your life because you spend like an hour of meditation. Why does it not change? Because there is the karmic flow, number one. There is something that is there wanting to blossom in you. Good, bad, your karmic flow, that's what we call the karmic flow. It needs to manifest out. To erase that, what if there's bad karma waiting to unfold? And then you start getting the type of intention, very different intention. This meditation is wasting my life, let me not go. My friend goes to bar every day, I should rather try what it is like. And then my friend, he's trying drugs. I see him happy. I wasted so much of time in all the bullshit mumbo jumbo yoga. And so I'm sure you have met some of the people like that. What happens when there is a downturn of the karmic unfolding, the flow is trying to knock you down to the different course, the course of suffering, your desire starts changing. You want something different in your life. And that takes you to maturity of that type of person. It changes your personality. So I'm not saying that controls everything, but that plays significant part in these cataclysmic unfolding of the flow of karma. But the problem is your mind, your mental meditation practices and your unfolding of karma is not the only thing in reality. There is the third factor. You, your karmic flow, and your social reality. Because unlike old-time yogis who cut off from society, go to jungle and then, big events happen and they don't even know. They are just all by themselves. So then the social issues are not their problems. But we are living in society and there is this third force constantly knocking us. What is my job tomorrow? I'm graduating next year. Where am I going to go after that? All these social realities, I'm not saying we should focus on that, but what I mean is when we expect a lot from yoga, we have to be mindful of all these factors that are affecting our everyday life. And then if we give credit where credit is due, basically expect only as much as we can, how much it is actually keeping me alive, So it's like someone just breathing oxygen, and then maybe in those difficult times, staying alive is enough. I've been through like a very deep and heightened states of experiences, and I have fallen down to below the normal average everyday consciousness. Why? Because when there is such changes in life, cataclysmic events in life, it affects everything. And it's easy to come and tell you, I'm just that enlightened guy, but the fact of the matter is, the same person can be in the Buddha level, and then even below everybody, human consciousness is almost difficult for us to comprehend from sitting outside. Then what is the point? People start asking. But what is the point then is, then if you have seen the beauty of that experience, if you have ever been drawn with the gravity of this energy one time, even if there are all these disturbing things that happen to you for a certain time, you get back on track. You fight for it. You keep trying to get back to the stream. We call that Srotapanna. Srota means the stream, Apanna means who has attained the stream. Like a log, you have to drag it. But once it enters the stream of a river, because this metaphor is good if you are like in a mountain place, and then you put the log into river, and then the log will come down. So when you actually cultivate yourself to the level of Srotapanna, meaning there is some kind of natural tendency in you that goes towards tranquility, that goes towards a higher state of wisdom, then even if you are lost for a little bit, all kinds of situations in life, you strive for it. You tried your best to go back to that. That's.
And I have to go.
Sorry, I didn't speak.
I did want to ask about this Srotapanna or Sotapanna question, because one of my personal issues with yoga or tantra was that the way it conceived was there was certain experience attained, certain state of consciousness attained, and that was kind of what you were looking for, let's say. But from this idea of Sotapati, the idea is, as you said, right? It's like a stream that kind of
naturally flowing. Yeah.
So it seems that, let's say, for someone who has that sort of fundamental recalibration of experience, right? Fundamental reprogramming, is the point of meditation to sort of have a permanent recalibration such that if circumstances arise and you cannot meditate every day to that loving good, regardless, you're still going down that stream. Whereas before that, you do have to maintain some sort of dedication.
That's what I'm saying.
Once you get into the stream, theoretically, you could for the rest of your life not do anything formal. But because you're recalibrated, it just kind of goes on.
No, what I am saying is only that once you have attained that stream, you will be able to get back to the stream again.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that you are constantly making progress down the journey, but necessarily that once you have entered the stream, then you will find your way again in this lifetime or another. Like people who have stopped meditating for a decade, they come to practice and they report that they have cut that back. Like the state would take a decade to cultivate, and they might spend like a whole month to cultivate that, but they do.
Yes.
And because they had once cultivated that state. But are they constantly progressing further, even if they are not doing anything?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Yeah.
But as you said, it's so much more almost immediately accessible than it was before.
Actually, that part I am pretty sure about it.
Yeah.
But
that is the way the Buddha said it himself too,
Yeah.
when he described it. too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's basically like if you learn a skill
Yeah.
and you haven't done the skill for a while, and
Yeah.
then you do the skill again,
yeah.
then you have still that low muscle memory.
That's I would agree to that. This analogy almost kind of fits to what we are discussing. That natural tendencies also, not just like your muscles are not trying to take you back to that your state, but your tendencies, your mental tendencies, once you have entered the stream, they try to take you back. Not just like if you go subjectively, because these mental tendencies themselves create some type of habit.
Yes.
So they are not just passively there.
Yeah.
They are interacting with you. Hey, friend,
Yeah.
come on. Like, where are you now?
And necessarily it sort of begins to sublimate the relational ego.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
See you.
When is this?
Can you give me some Aditya, because then we
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
more. Yeah. Okay,
He's the
sure.
president.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
All right.
All right.
Where does this thing go?
Where does the stream go?
Yeah.
Just to the self, nowhere else.
Just to what?
Just to the self, to yourself. It's not going anywhere other than yourself.
Yourself is going to yourself.
It's the projected false self
Okay.
trying to find your true self. It's not going to a mountain or a ocean or a God or anything. It is you. There is this story of the alchemist. Most likely some of you might have read. It's a kind of journey of self-discovery, which seems redundant because I was the same. Like if you have read some of these Zen koans, then you would know that before I sit in meditation, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers and fountains are fountains. And then after the meditation, mountains are mountains, rivers are rivers, fountains are fountains. So the point is, it's not about going to a totally different place. It's about dispelling illusions that surround our personality, conditions that construct, delimit ourselves, self-esteem and all, the mind and all. Maybe anybody else, because you and I the only one having this conversation, Yeah.
Before you mentioned that the body can be observed sort of objectively, then when you're talking about what he asked about training muscles, but it's my experience often that the body and the mind are intertwined, so the body can relay parts of the mind, for instance, emotions, obviously, like and is it then that this becomes this mental observation becomes more objective because it's in the body, or is it then that the body becomes subjective because it is related to the mind?
So, okay, it's a little complicated. Yeah, I do not believe mind and the body as completely separate entities, but rather as a continuum. But at least in the beginning of the meditation, I have to rely on the dual system, like considering mind as a separate entity from the body, a duality, so that we can treat mind as completely different from the body and work through there. And so in the dualistic paradigm, even when working in dualistic paradigm, the states of the mind can be observed. I'll give you one example I had, okay? One of my friends in San Diego is an eminent scientist. He makes these, he's an engineer. He makes devices for like some of the latest models for heart monitoring. And he wanted to test on me in my different meditative states, and every time he comes with some improvement in the device, he would leave some devices to me. And in the beginning, I just thought that it's useless because I am only meditating, not doing anything physical, but only like programming one type of thought versus another type of thought, programming this color or that image versus another color, another image. I'm not changing my breathing pattern. I'm not doing any suspension of breath, any physical. And I thought that it's just a waste. You cannot see anything. But he left these devices in different occasions for more than a dozen times, and then, but all I had to do was consistently do the same exercise. What I was doing is 4 stages of visualization, and I gave roughly 15. I'm not checking time. I just, how long it takes for me to complete those visualizations, roughly divided into 15 minutes, and then 4 sections of making 1 hour. I'm not doing different breathing exercises. I'm simply changing the imagery. And then at the end, after a month, he came with the result. He had fanciful charts, and then he was explaining. Most of this I didn't even get it. But one thing was clear: when he layered all the charts from different days of my 1 hour meditation, roughly 1 hour meditation, I could clearly see a pattern of 4 completely recognizable different states. That is the body, that is observing the body. All I'm doing is mind only. I'm not doing anything body. So that was, sometimes I myself get surprised because, when I got training in these things, I was not like using devices. I was not trying to prove to anybody like it can actually be observed, but because these modern technologies, particularly some of the long-term meditation practitioners have been observed in the MRI and then seeing their brainwave patterns change, and it's like very stunning, like based on different visualizations, different thoughts. So it is not just thoughts as the humor of the body, but our thoughts directly correlating with the body, and you can have visible imprints in the body of different thoughts, like your thoughts constituting your somatic conditions that are observable, like that's where that part I can see myself, but I'm not an expert. I'm a philosopher. I can claim to be a yogi, but I am not used to these devices myself, or not even obsessed with seeing, there is this graph I can see. I'm like, to me it doesn't matter whether you can see, but for most people today who need convincing, for them it matters. Like they can, really, man? Like so many friends in San Diego came, and then when he was kind of showing in my house, 20-30 people, everybody was like, can you teach me? Oh my God. they all knew me before that, and nobody cared when they saw the chart, and now chart is like Buddha for them, So chart is, they just want to see the chart, So, but yeah, I was surprised to see that the effect is visible in our bodily conditions.
And then this is like observation of the mental thing, but it's not like when you're talking about the observation that comes from meditation, which is a deep understanding of the light. In some sense, this is observing that objectively, but it's not really observing it very deeply. And so I'm wondering if there's a parallel when you were saying that you can observe muscles growing objectively, the body changing, when you catch for the mind. I'm wondering if there's maybe some deeper subjective change in the body, when the body seems to be objectively changing, like you can see the heart monitor. But there's also some very deep subjective things.
So this is a new developing discipline. They are calling it Neuro-phenomenology. The term, I do not know who coined the term Neuro-phenomenology, but it was like all started with more or less like Francisco Varela, a Chilean scientist, and Dalai Lama supported this research in Mind and Life Institute, and one of my acquaintances or a friend, Evan Thompson from Vancouver, he has worked on it, research, he has published substantially in Waking Dreaming Being. He's one of the books I have used in my classroom for my students for several times. The book came about a decade ago. So what is the scope of neuro-phenomenology is these like neural correlates you can see, but the mental states, they are subjective. So what they are arguing is, from modern science, we should not simply discredit our mental states, like my report of what I am experiencing. And then, but how can we observe that? You can be telling stories. No, but when I say I was, for the last hour, I was in meditative state and I was in this tranquility, in this blissful state, or I was having these visions. And then if I'm going through MRI machine, you have recorded data of 1 hour, and then you can correlate my narrative with what particular zones, regions of my brain were being activated at the time, and can that corroborate with another subject telling similar story with his brain functions. So these things have been studied, and I think that neurophenomenology is a way for us to go forward.
So, yeah, I get that. I meant that because when you were talking about objective versus subjective observation, in this case, there seems to be an objective observation of whatever's going on in your little patient. But even though it's objective, it seems less deep, as in it's not coming from the deep practice of self-reflection and whatever else comes into your practice. And so I'm trying to get at is the obsession with sort of objective measuring, whether part of what meditation is trying to get at is getting away from this, because it's almost like a very shallow, like if you meditate just so that you can see stuff on a graph, and maybe you train it like a muscle and you see your graph changing, but somehow you manage this without ever getting this deeper reflection, which I don't know if it's possible, maybe not, but that even though it's an objective measurement that something is changing, that's not the point. And so similarly, the objective measurement is precisely what you're not trying to get.
Yeah. No, I myself, as I told you, that I myself did not try to learn or practice these things so that some neural correlates can be observed. But for some people, they are drawn to that type of thing. People think, oh, this is objective, we can see, quantifiable. I don't think subjective modes of consciousness are quantifiable, metrified, because now reality is metrified. People think that we have to measure everything to be real, but our subjective states may not be metrified, and I fall in that type of category. But I have to have a conversation with the people who see reality as completely quantifiable, and that's why I was using.
But even beyond that, even if reality was completely quantifiable, that even if that were true, that this subjective thing, this subjective practice, whatever it is, this subjective observation brings you something different than an objective. Like the objective graph does not bring you a practice.
My happiness is not the chart going up. Exactly. So what does it matter? Look at the chart. Right? No, you are happy because when I was happy, my chart was up, and you say you are not happy. I see the chart going up, so you are a liar, sir. So nice meeting you. Yeah.
Yes.
I have an answer that's sort of completely dual. There's also a discussion of exercise where do the metrics miss things, right? Like, I mean, in any of these sort of like antsy exercises where there's this whatever like balance and whatever like making sure your body is moving in a more complicated way. These are the things which you can't objectively measure. Like this is a certain muscle because of larger coordination processes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think, yeah. I guess I don't really understand your question, but
I think it's like, at least from what I understand, it's like over measuring. It's like you're trying to quantify things that don't really need to be measured.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it seems often there's a tendency to, once we measure something, we feel like we understand it. But that is not really an understanding. Like, your deep understanding from your meditation is not the graph. And so if someone looked at the graph and said, now I understand your brain and your deep meditation, that's not true. Even though maybe it's objectively true, they understand everything that's going on in your brain. Even if they mapped every single neuron in your brain and they understood exactly how each one fired. And so they said, okay, now I understand your meditation. And it might be true sort of objectively in that they measure it, they know everything that's going on, they know why, but it still doesn't bring them this.
No, let me create a better paradigm to explain what we are talking. Let us say you become the Buddha tomorrow, and then we measure your brain, every single function of your brain, all the neurotransmitters and synapses, and then all their functions, and then we have it graphed and metrified. Now let's go one step further. We are able to replicate that in your brain. Are you the Buddha now? Because we imposed the same brain situation, like the Buddha's brain. We copied Buddha's brain, all the neural activities happening at the time, and we developed some devices that allows us to suppress the rest of the activities of the brain, which is quite doable. We can actually block neurotransmitters and then suspend their activities. So let us say Buddha had suspended his prefrontal lobe, his whatever amygdala, stopped signaling life threat and whatever, and then we kind of mimicked the situation, and we are actually having the exact sync with Buddha's brainwave. Are you enlightened now? So therefore, theoretically, I'm agreeing with you that I don't think it really matters. It is like if you and I have the same muscle, am I that whatever guy, So its brain is just another muscle, So we are so obsessed now that particularly this generation, we have spent billions of dollars in research in neurology. And it's good for health reasons and all, but I don't think that our liberated, enlightened states of the mind will have neural correlates, and I don't think that we can replicate those neural correlates and induce Buddha state on some other subjects. We can start from enlightened rats,
I think it's more like the brainwaves are a stint than not the progress. They're not a specific position. It's like you see a bodybuilder, you put on a muscle shirt, and you think you have the same muscles. Like there's the same form, but something completely different to me.
Yeah. I think we should stop now. What do you think, Aditya? We have gone for like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So because I had to also follow him, and then I have some another assignment now after that. Yeah, I have one more assignment. We had a nice conversation. I really enjoy talking with you guys, and my office is just in Humanities 1093. My office is 12:30 to 2 o'clock every Tuesday, Thursday. I'm there at my office. I'm teaching 2 classes now. One is the EPICS class, that's for mostly undergrad. The more interesting class I'm teaching right now is language and reality, how language creates our reality, or to what extent reality is represented by language. And so this is more like a philosophy class, but I teach memory class, I teach creativity class. So those kind of more like a philosophy, comparative philosophy classes I teach. But I'm here, particularly Vimarsha, the scope is different. I want to see to what extent we can encourage practices and see how far we can go. Not like some of my colleagues dare, they are more American-born graduates, and they say, no, I'm gonna make these practices integral to my curricula, and I don't want to do that. But I'm running parallel institute in which we can teach more of practices. And then those students who want to be part of this will join eventually. But I think this to me has been a very fruitful journey actually. But again, I'm like a text-based kind of guy, not like a neurology or lifestyle kind of guy. What I teach is books. Really, I'm like a book person. So I would love to say from my personal stories, but even if there are so much of my own personal practices and experiences, I do not cite them as mine because there are so many texts backing up those things. I would rather just rely on the texts because my business has gone so far, too far. Like I am the guy kind of business. That's what I'm talking about. I have this autobiography, and I have this, and then it's more about a person, me, rather than a system. If you get a system, then you all can follow the system. But if I'm just a unique being, you are a different person. You can never be me. There is no point of following. A prophet is a prophet. Ordinary man is ordinary man. I don't know why people follow. I'm sorry, because you can never be. If Buddha is born a different entity, by birth he is like Buddha, then no matter how much you follow the Buddha, you can never be the Buddha. But if Buddha is a system, that's how the Mahayan understood. Buddha is a system, a course, a path. You follow these paths, you get that state of consciousness. And then there's a point of trying, practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, it's such a pleasure to be here.